Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Nosferatu. So a lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, you have Vic trying to have some semblance of a normal life, trying to figure out the whole college situation, but it's kind of hard to do that when neither one of your parents pay taxes, because it's like you need apparently copy of your family's tax returns, especially if you want to like go out for financial aid, because that's the only way she's going to be able to go to college, in particular the college she wants to go to. It's when you look at her family dynamic, it's kind of messed up. She's literally stuck in the middle of like her dad being like, oh yeah, go to college, your mom being like, no, don't go to college, you can go to a trade school, get you a real job. And it's just caught between like what you want and what your parents kind of want for you. You kind of align with what your dad wants, but your dad's not the most responsible person to kind of help you get what you want. And your mom, who is the more responsible parent, kind of shoots down your dreams, because for her it's just kind of like, our family ain't the type to go to school, like, you know, go to college and stuff like that. You get out here in the real world and you do what you do, you know, type of thing. It's just a very complicated situation. I was actually kind of surprised when you're like, oh yeah, her mom doesn't do tax returns either, because like all her jobs are under the table too. I'm like, wow, that I would have expected, because especially because she makes a remark like, of course she can't go to your dad. It's like, she can't go to you either. So that just, I was like, oh, okay, so like I thought this would just be more ammunition to use against him, but it's like, oh no, it's because you're kind of in the same boat too. That's what I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. So that's interesting. It makes sense in the long run, but it's actually kind of sad because, you know, for Vic, it's like she wants this, you know, but can't have it. Obviously, after everything she's recently been through, trying to live a normal life is what she wants. It's interesting too, because it's like, obviously we go more into what she's capable of with her, like, also I want to make some corrections. I think last episode I kept referring to it as super creative. It's like, no, it's strong creative. I think maybe I did. Or maybe it was just this episode I was just constantly referring to it as like super creative in my head. I don't remember. I want to say I said super creative last episode, but it's strong creative. If I got it right, good on me last week, but I sure as hell got it wrong this week, at least in my head. So I'm correcting it if I got it wrong last week, like I said. Nevertheless, I thought it was specifically just using her bridge that messed her eye up. It's like, no, it's like, because it kind of all goes together, like, because I'm doing it right now, Jesus. Strong creatives can sense other strong creatives, and every time she's sensing him, I guess it's kind of technically, you know, tapping into her powers, so it's messing her eye up still. It's like, wow. Obviously, she's going all over the place. She's seeing visions here and there, while you also have Charlie tracking down other super creators. It's what I kind of figured as much. Like that map he had was a map of all the different super creators that were kind of existent, and this new one that popped up on the way. Because for him, it's because he visits that lady Jolene at the beginning, and he puts on her skates, and it's like, oh, how fast she was and everything. I'm like, those skates are her knife, aren't they? And it seems like basically the way Maggie ends up discovering it later on, it's like, oh, he literally paralyzed her, because he was like, oh, like, the fact of the matter is he's trying to I guess because she's so fast, he was like, oh, a shorter way. It's got to be connected potentially to your skate. Well, not just your skate, but your knife and everything too. So that's what he was probably potentially thinking. But it seems like basically if you don't align with his thoughts, he gets rid of you. I wonder, did he paralyze Jolene just because, like, obviously she found out what he was up to and she didn't agree with it, or was it? Does he do this to the other ones that popped up on his map? Is that has he dealt with them? Are they in a similar situation to her, like paralyzed, or did he straight up kill them, or did he leave them alone because they're like, no, we'll stay out of your way? You know, maybe Jolene was one of the few that stood in his way, which shows like potentially, you know, Vic. That's the problem with these things, because I kind of wonder if I get there. I might have been referring to her. I feel like I was calling her Maggie earlier. I don't remember, like, I don't remember if I did that in this recording or not. I know that was like prior to the recording. And for a reason in my head, I'm like switching their names for whatever reason. I don't know if I did that this recording or not. That's what I get for like recording these when I record them. Nevertheless, but getting back to it, like, that shows you, like, what he could end up potentially doing to Vic. That's interesting, because, like, doing that to Jolene, it makes sense, because her thing is her legs. Like, her knife is her skate, so do it make sense why he would paralyze her? I mean, not saying it's good or anything, but it makes sense why he would do that. What would he do to Vic? I mean, he'd probably do a similar thing because her knife is her bike, so he'd probably try and break her arms and legs. Sadly, that super messed up situation if that ends up being the case. It's also interesting too because we found out more about what Maggie's capable of too. And she ends up bringing this up, and I thought it was so fascinating. It's like Wraith hunts Brad, and it's so interesting because because normally she goes to her Scrabbles. Her Scrabbles actually came to her. Like, she notices the lights are flickering and stuff in the library. She's like, holy crap. She's like, my Scrabbles never reach out to me like that. So that was like kind of like the universe being like, yo, pay attention, like we got something to tell you type of situation. So I thought that was kind of fascinating because I guess it's part of her medium ability. Like I said, it's kind of like it points her in the right direction. Like when she went looking for Jolene's room, the light in front of her started flickering on and off. It's also interesting because when Charlie went into the that hospital at the beginning of the episode, like the lights all kind of shut off. I wonder why is that? Like, is that part of what he can do? Did he have someone, like Bing, for example, messing with the lights? It seemed like that was more so on him because, like, as he walked down the hallway, the lights started going out. So I think that's just kind of part of what he can do. We also see that he's getting old again. I'm wondering why that is specifically. It's interesting too, like when you kind of break down a lot of like understanding how a strong creative situation works, because like when he's kind of explaining why Vic's situation is the way it is, obviously not knowing it's Vic, but it's like, oh, using a bridge, whoever this strong creative is, they're an old soul, and the fact of the matter is kind of representative of the fact is that obviously they must traverse a lot and they must be trying to run away from their life, which are all things pointing towards Vic. I think Bing might have figured it out when he saw Vic roll up on her bike, and it's like hearing her talk about, oh, she wants to go off to college and everything. I think that's what clicked in his head to be like, but to be fair, like Vic is his friend, so I don't know whether they outright piece together in his head, and is he going to really act upon it? Because at least in the context of the show, we haven't seen him tell Charlie yet, so we'll see on that front. But what's interesting is obviously the whole like first initiation with like Haley and stuff, because like at first like Charlie got pissed at Bing for grabbing her like that. It's like, no, basically there's a place in hell for people who do that to children or whatever, and it's like, okay, so I think we're probably cutting a little more into his psychology, that basically he's saving all these kids, right? I think it's because when he was younger, when he was in that stage, no one saved him, so he's trying to save other kids from going through what he went through. Obviously it'd be different circumstances, but probably like parents who aren't attentive, or trying, these kids kind of coming from like a not great background, essentially. I think maybe that'll be something he tries to communicate with like Vic. It's like, oh, you're coming from your complicated family, I came from one too, so maybe that's what they're going to aim for, like in that, trying to understand why he does what he does, because in his mind he probably does saying like, oh, I am saving these children, like they might end up becoming monsters or something else, but I am saving and preserving their childhood that would have been taken and stolen from him. Obviously the whole graveyard of like what could come to be, So that's one thing to kind of think about, so maybe that's something they'll kind of tackle later on. That's what that remark from him immediately makes me think of. It's actually kind of sad too that, Bing, like, he thinks he's doing a good thing and all this. Like, oh, I'm saving these kids. Like, obviously, as Charlie kind of referenced last episode. What was actually sad too is like Vic kind of motivated him, because she's like, if you're not going to believe in yourself, then who will? And kind of tell him like, oh, you go, no, just be yourself and do the job the best you can. It's like you're sadly motivating him into like a villain, which kind of like ends with him taking Haley. So it's like you inadvertently kind of pushed him further down there. It's just kind of sad how it works out like that. I was wondering what the whole gas mask thing was about. At first, I was just like, oh, is that just supposed to be your aesthetic thing? But it's like, well, I guess it's just how he goes about it. Like, he knocks Haley's mom out with the gas and then kind of keeps her knocked out a little bit, too. because it's like, oh, the mother, and I'm like, I hope like Bean didn't go back in there and kill her. He might have, because the last dude was all about killing the parents, because less fuss, of being like, oh, them being able to, like, they don't want any witnesses to potentially what goes down, but also it's probably like you don't want them to have anything that could potentially come back to the kids to have a family. It's like, oh, leave them being orphans because they're better off on their own, or maybe it's just in general like, oh, you want to punish your parents because they're terrible, at least in Charlie's mind, and Bing is being manipulated by Charlie into believing that they are. So that's where everything kind of stands in that point, but we'll have to wait and see in that regard. Like I said, I hope Bing didn't do it, like went back to kill her, but maybe he did. And also poor Mittens. That was brutal. Like, oh yeah, you're petting him. I was like, you're about to kill this cat, aren't you? Literally lifts it by its head and then crushes its head. Just like, Jesus. It's interesting because Maggie did kind of see it coming, but she saw it as smitten. And then it's like, she kind of, well, Vic immediately kind of internalized it as like, oh, referencing like the guy that she's on the checking out the college with and everything, like that she's kind of smitten with him, obviously, and she kind of took it as that, being like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything to me, but it was like, it wasn't smittens, it was mittens. So obviously it seems like it isn't like 100%, like maybe it's just kind of like some wires kind of got crossed, because obviously she's desperate, trying to keep Vic safe and everything, and so it didn't really point her 100% in the right direction. It was just kind of a little bit off. I mean, it's still kind of like I forgot to talk about it last episode. I didn't remember until after I finished the recording. Was like, all right, there's a whole thing of like how she doesn't get exact pronouns, more so like nicknames for stuff. Hence, like, rather than getting Vic, she got Brat type of situation. So it's not so clear. I think it's so interesting. Well, which is interesting. I guess that's the whole point, too, now that I'm saying that now, too, because it's like, that's why she got Smittens instead of Mittens, because it doesn't give pronouns, so it would have been giving the cat's names. So, I mean, it had a double meaning, because Vic was smitten, but also it was just because it can't give her proper, it just doesn't work like that. I mean, it kind of has to be a caveat to it. It can't be a perfect system, It's always right, but it's not perfect. Because it's supposed to be kind of, I mean, I guess it could also run deeper than that, because it's not just about Vic. It's probably about the fact is that, Haley is smitten with Mittens, because that's the person she looks after, So it still works in that same regard, too, when you actually think about it. I didn't even click until now. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's interesting, too, because obviously Maggie tracking Vic down was pretty impressive. But it's like, oh, as a medium, it's like, of course, like I kind of figured out, like, I mean, she knew where Maggie was from. I mean, Maggie knew where Vic was from. See, I switched their names like that. Jeez. So she just knew the general area, but because of her whole medium thing, she was able to kind of get a specific point. It's like, that's pretty impressive. I was like, oh, because I figured, like, if anything, it was probably going to go down in here, like, where Maggie's from. I figured it was going to go down there, but it's like, no. I mean, especially the way a shorter way works. Which is interesting. Once again, let's not forget, like, no one else can utilize it. The only person that can use it is Vic. So it was also interesting for her. She's like, I'm not going to use it anymore, because she knew what it meant. It's like, oh, no, this is me putting me in this dangerous situation of like, oh, yeah, like, I could be potentially caught up in this whole situation. I mean, Maggie did come to warn her. It's like the Wraith is literally looking for you because you're potentially a danger, super create. Did it again. I'm sorry. It's annoying. I don't know why I got the word super in my head about it. Strong creatives can sense each other, so I think there's also an interesting parallel there, because like the sheriff was asking Maggie not to pursue this anymore, because it's like, oh, you're the closest thing I have to a daughter, so just kind of let this go. And Vic's trying to let it go because she's trying not to get involved. She's like, I want to just have a normal life. But Maggie's like, people like us, that normal life thing doesn't really happen. We're kind of beyond that at this point, So it's interesting in that regard. I am curious to see whether anything comes of that whole situation of like, oh yeah, like she forged, because of Willa gave her the whole idea of like, oh yeah, like forging her dad's, tax returns and stuff like that. And obviously she didn't want to do it at first, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna get my dad in trouble, but she's so intent on going to college. Like, this is what she wants. Her and Home Dude, like, both come from different backgrounds, but they kind of want the same thing of like, I don't want my family situation to kind of determine mine. He doesn't want, them to kind of plan out his life. He wants to make his own choices, much like Vic, but like I said, on different sides of the spectrum in that regard. So I'm also curious to see where her friend Craig plays in this role. Just, I don't know. Just the fact is, when he pulled that wrench out, I'm like, I thought he was going to do something with it. I don't know why. And it just, well, obviously, like, he cares about Vic, but I'm wondering, is there going to be more to that? Especially because he knows about her shirt away now. So I'm like, is anything going to come of that? Like, I don't know. It seems like they might be plotting something with that. It might just be like a, hey, that's like your friend, your only friend, kind of your bestie type of situation. But it almost seems like a, I'm kind of possessive, I don't want you to go type of thing. I don't know. It seems like there might be something there. Might just be me reading way too much into it. It's a strong possibility. I have a tendency to do that from time to time when it comes to TV shows. Like, there's a lot of times I'll be like, oh, this and this, and it's like, you were super wrong about that the entire time. So we'll see. I'm curious because this might be like our first full-on look coming up of Christmas Land, because she's going to use the bridge to try and track down Haley. So it's going to be interesting. Side note, I didn't even think of that, though. Like, I don't know why that still didn't 100% click on my head. Like, I guess for whatever reason, I figured she doesn't need it to be specifically where the bridge originally was, but I guess it helps. It didn't, I don't know why in the past 2 episodes it didn't click. It's like, right, every time she uses the bridge, she has to go specifically here. I guess I never really paid much attention or even really thought about it too much. I guess for whatever reason, I'm like, the bridge pops up, the other end of the bridge pops up wherever, so I kind of figured she can go wherever to use it, but it's like, no, the bridge is there, but you have to have the intuition to be able to see it, I guess, and that comes from her. I mean, other people can see it too, but maybe it's just because they secretly have the intuition. Like, because everyone has a potential to be like a strong creative. Like, everyone has that Inscape situation. Just only strong creatives can literally bring theirs into the reality, So, I don't know. But like I said, because so far we've only seen like the outskirts of Christmas Land. We haven't really seen the heart of it and just like what it's like, what the kids are like there, what their whole situation is. So we might get our first look, with, Vic tracking Haley down. Not unless they haven't quite made it to Christmas Land yet. I'm also curious, are we going to cross paths with any other strong creatives? Obviously, we met another one, but like, is Vic going to join forces with other strong creatives to kind of, I mean, obviously she's got Maggie on her side, but is she going to meet up with anyone else? Are other people going to either be dead, or like I brought up earlier, either dead or because Charlie got rid of him because it could be potential danger, or are they going to be like, no, I'm going to stay out of his way. I don't know, maybe it's like he's crazy powerful and I'm not about to mix up with him of anything that he does. I'm very curious to find out. Very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.